Yeah.
Good evening. At this point in time, we'd like to bring excuse me, um, the public hearing, and we're calling on Mr. Grossi um, to let us know what's happening.
Thanks. Hopefully you've all read in your packet the request for Pierce School Civil Engineering. This is a result of an audit that was performed at the Pierce School in regards to ADA compliance with the parking lot and the walkway that leads from the parking lot to the building. After months of phone conversations, pictures, emails, and discussions with our compliance auditor, it was determined that the parking lot ADA spot and the walkway that goes up to the building are not compliant. So this is another step in the process to make it right. What this request is $12,400 for civil engineering. What that'll give us is a set of plans that are compliant, and we'll be able to put them out to bid and take care of this problem.
Okay. Questions from the board? Questions from the public? Okay. We have to keep the public hearing open for half an hour. So in the meantime, we will go on with our regular meeting. So would you all please rise and with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Points of pride?
Okay, tonight our points of pride come from Antrim Elementary School. And again, we're trying to give you glimpses into the classroom. And Pierce is also here, so they're going to also be sharing information. So I will go ahead and get this started.
Hello, my name is Emily Warden, and I'm for writing. My first graders have been working on the narrative writing unit, and we've been working on the process how, which stands for plan, organize, and write. We also will be using the acronym CLAPS, which stands for character, location, action, problem, and solution. So my first graders have been working on creating a plan and going through the writer's process to make a story on their most favorite day. And they did such a phenomenal job in My most favorite day. Author Rosie. My most favorite day was spent with my Beagle Blues. We had so much fun getting wet by the fire hose. We went to Sheffield with our ABS boots and we played with the parachute. I had so much fun that I didn't know what to do next. Luckily that we have field day again this year. About the author. Rosie is a 6-year-old author. She lives in Antrim, New Hampshire. She loves her hamster and her dog. My most favorite day My most favorite day was spent with my family and it was so fun with my dog. We went to downtown. It was so fun. We had so much fun going to the indoor pool and eating at this yummy pizza place. We thought we had no drinks. I was worthy of being thirsty. But we did. I had the best time in most parts. Maddox is a 6-year-old author. He lives in Antrim, New Hampshire, and he lives with me and himself. My favorite day, author Peyton. My most favorite day was spent with my teachers, all my friends, and chicks and children. We spent a little bit of the day at Henry Farm and to be lunch at Henry. Because of the baby chicks and not sheep. We also got to see cows and horses. It was a problem. We got too hot outside. Cooled off in the shade. Had a full drink of water. It was the best day. Peyton is a 7-year-old author. She lives in Antrim, New Hampshire. She loves her one cat and one dog named Luna and Emma. My most favorite day was spent with my Mimi family, Matthew, and my sister, and Monday. We went to Cowabunga's and we played in fantasy dance. I had such a good time. I did not want to leave. Mindy and Grandpa said, maybe we can go again someday. About the Christopher is a 6-year-old author. Lives in Antrim, New Hampshire. He loves games like Minecraft. My most favorite day, author always. My most favorite day was spent with my family, Dad, Mom, Avery, and me. We went to the ocean and me and Mom, Avery, doing jumps over the waves. We had so much fun finding sea turtles in the water. When I was leaving the ocean, Dad did not know how to get home. Luckily, Dad found out how to get home. I had so much fun playing at the ocean. About the author. Olive is a 7-year-old author. She lives in Antrim, New Hampshire. She loves her family and she loves holidays.
I do want to thank Helfried Zersby, who was critical in putting that together for us.
Okay, approval of the manifests.
I certify that the manifest listed below totaling $4,914,806.02 have been reviewed by me and found to be proper charges against Kentucky Valley School District for goods and/or services received and have been properly processed prior to the submittal to the school board.
I move that we approve the manifest.
Is there a second? Okay, any questions? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstains? Reports, Ryan obviously is not here tonight. Teacher representative is Libby St. Jean.
This month, we are celebrating kind of the schools, which every path, learning about different genres of poetry, learning about poets. And last week, was really cool. They got to do Poem in the Pocket, where each student in every single class carried around a little pocket and their own poem written by a published poet. And about a couple times during the day, they got to go to different classrooms and read their poems to other students. And they did really incredibly. They thought it was wonderful. So we're doing that, and then this week we are also doing a poetry slam within usually lunchtime, where students get to actually share some of the poems that they've been writing in the classroom. And again, this kind of ties into our evening next week, which we're going to do our road school, Title I and TO, where students will be also sharing different types of storytelling. So students will be doing thematic plays, good stories, and third grade is doing which is a Japanese form of storytelling with thought, where they have pictures and they get to tell it, and families get to come and enjoy the story. You're also doing a book swap, so families can switch out books if they have both books that they want to share. What we're most proud about
We'll be moving the camera next week. Of course, we are looking for last, I really wanted to see what it was, and all the commissioners showed up, so we have. So we're very fortunate. Fourth graders have been raising workshop for the last few years, and what January, get the workshop as dates in January, and we're watching this in Europe. Now they're not will be released in the particular. This is an initiative that we started this year, along with our, where we are acknowledging the students that are showing them positive behavior during lunchroom, and doing what they're supposed to do as far as cleaning things up. It's very important that they is children, and they get to do kind of like a special thing where they can do student and each classroom has a student a chance to go to the building school, where, as you can see, it's decorated with gold, and they have kind of like a fancy little formal spot where they can sit, and usually they'll have like a guest come and sit with them, whether it's a teacher or great officers came, and it was that, so it's really a great opportunity for students to shine and, feel special. Brought to us by Books and this is probably my favorite thing to do for that. One day, trimester, where we call the Blackberry. All different age groups, and they go and we do different activities based on whatever the theme of that month is or whatever we're working on. Sometimes we see things, that's the STEM projects where they had a marble run and they had to make it up. And it's usually an all-day thing, the kids love it because they get to work with the entire school, and they're paired up within usually 5 groups, but within the groups, it's K to 4, so you have a mixture of groups. And it's really wonderful to see the kids work together and, kind of help each other. It's one of their favorite things as well. We get responsibility to take the research course for one of the education for after 2 years, definitely grassroots movement to raise money our music playground.
Thank you very much for coming in. Before we go on with the last report, I obviously skipped over the public comments, so um, going back for new board members and public, our public comment time is a time when the public can come in and comment on anything that's on the agenda or board activities. We ask that they let us know what they identify themselves by name and community, because we do have to keep detailed minutes. Each person is allowed 2 minutes to speak, and it is a time for comment and not discussion. So we make sure that people understand that if they have questions, the board will not be replying to them during the comment. They can, if they have questions, they can forward them to the office and they'll be answered at that point in time. So are there any members of the public that would like to come up and comment? No. All right, thank you. All right, so we'll turn things over to Curtis Hamilton and the Communication Committee.
Thanks. The Communications Committee has met twice since our last board meeting. We met last Tuesday and again just prior to this meeting. Our committee has been working to set goals for the months ahead, and we've settled on 3 to occupy our immediate focus. First up, there are multiple pieces of legislation proposed in Concord regarding open enrollment. This would allow any student in New Hampshire to attend any public school within the state pending availability. The sending district would be paying the bulk of the tuition. There's potential for this legislation to have a meaningful impact on our district, both in terms of administrative and budgetary planning. So our goal will be to gain a rather thorough understanding of what's being proposed and its potential impact, and report that back here to the board at our next meeting. Secondly, we would like to expand the collective understanding of how we measure student achievement. Broadly speaking, there's an over-reliance on state assessment scores as the singular measure to determine the quality and effectiveness of education. I think we want to ask questions around how can we form a more thorough understanding by incorporating other levels of assessments, and what other things the district contributes that could also go into measuring that effectiveness, such as teacher qualifications and the depth of course offerings and graduation rates. And I think we believe that communicating this and establishing a broader framework will help people within our district see how we are performing and how teachers and staff use these assessments to move students forward. Lastly, we are looking to continue the discussion throughout our Conval communities around the issues of how public schools in New Hampshire are funded. To this end, we would like to explore partnering with the New Hampshire School Funding Fairness Project to examine and ultimately present how our 9 towns are impacted by New Hampshire's funding system. To this end, I will make a motion that the board authorize our committee to engage the School Funding Fairness Project for the purposes of exploring this partnership.
Motion's been made and seconded. Do we have questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Thank you.
Monthly calendar. This week, there is a New Hampshire School Board Association effective school board meetings for school board chairs and other members tomorrow from 12 to 1:30 that you can sign up for. They're also available on their site. That's the only other thing this week, unless anybody has anything. Okay. Next week, we have Policy Committee is scheduled for Tuesday, the 22nd at 6 p.m. We've got New Hampshire School Board Association is doing a Right to Know Part 2 on meetings, non-meetings, and non-public sessions from 12 to 2 on Wednesday. And the Selectmen's Advisory Committee is meeting at 7 p.m. on the 24th. And we'd like to propose that we do the first withdrawal study committee meeting on the 24th to get that started at 6 p.m. Okay, so we'll make sure we notify selectmen. And then the week of the 28th, which is spring recess, the communications committee, so the district is open, schools are not. Communications committee is going to meet at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, the 29th. And New Hampshire School Board Association is doing an overview of special education law for school boards from 12 to 1:30 on Wednesday, the 30th. Anything else for that week? Okay. In May, the week of May 5th, on Tuesday, the 6th, Budget and Property is meeting at 5:30. And then with a school board meeting at 7. Anything else for that week? Okay, the week of the 12th, Communications Committee is going to meet at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, the 13th, which is not on your calendar. Anything else for that week? The week of the 19th, on Tuesday, the 20th, we've got a school board meeting at 7. New Hampshire School Board Association is doing a Right to Know Part 3 for digital communication, email, and social media from 12 to 1:30. There is a Selectmen's Advisory Committee meeting at 7 that night. And I'm assuming after the first meeting of the Withdrawal Study Committee, they will propose additional meeting dates. Or do we want to put that on? Tentatively? Wait for me.
Yes, technically you should let them.
And then May 26th is Memorial Day, so the district is closed, but Policy Committee is scheduled to meet at 6 on the 27th. Janine, does that still work? Or was that the?
I won't be here. I don't know, if you want to try to change that. Can anybody make, when are you available? 20th is school board. Is the 22nd a possibility?
There's selectmen's and
Maybe the 15th.
works for me. Does that work for?
Jim? Can you make, Thursday the 15th? Okay.
Communications is on the 13th. Communications is on the 13th, so.
Okay. Okay, great. So,
At 6? Okay. And so then policy will not be on the 27th. Anything else? The final week in May? Okay. On your agenda, you saw school board orientation. By policy for new school board members, we have a policy that lists specific things that we should be providing to you. And one of the things we had not gotten to you is the new CVEA contract, which goes into effect July 1st. So we added it to the resource folder in Drive. It is also on our website available. School board requests, we're finalizing the transportation, so I hope to get that out to everybody tomorrow. We were looking at availability of open seats. That I was hoping to bring that to you, but the master schedule at the high school is still being finalized. So until that's finalized, that's a little unknown. And we're also finalizing school change requests. So if we let that settle a little bit more, we should be able to bring those to you at the next board meeting. And then I did outreach. A question that was brought up at the last board meeting was wondering, what are other districts charging for out of district tuition. So I did reach out to all the superintendents in the Southwest region, and so far the only responses I've received is that they'd also be interested in knowing what other people are charging. So all we know right now is that Harris has run an ad, right? And they're charging $6,000. Harrisville. What did I say, Harris? So if I get more information about that, I will bring that. Are there any other outstanding board requests that I didn't identify? Okay, and then the last thing is that the last board meeting we brought up, new members encouraging people to visit schools. So I have heard from Carl about interest, and I just didn't know if there were any other board members that are interested in that, and we would try to, if we were able to, create a schedule that you could do that together. But sometimes that doesn't work.
Sorry. You put me down for that also, if you don't mind, Ann.
Okay, great. We haven't scheduled it yet. That's why I was just interested. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Is your mic on?
You could let everybody know when it is. We could maybe others would join.
Okay, great. All right, well, we'll at least have 2 people. I'm looking at Mr. Grassi back there because I know he.
So moved. So moved.
Second. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions? Thank you. Old business?
Old business, Janine?
We didn't get any questions. I just got one question about a date on the JLCJA, about a date on it. But otherwise, we're looking to adopt these 4 policies tonight. So I'm going to go forward with making motions if there are no questions. Do I make the motion?
Yeah.
I move that we adopt policy JLCJA, Emergency Plan for Sports-Related Injuries and Additional Protocols.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions?
The next policy is policy JLF on reporting child abuse. There were quite extensive changes to this policy, but I haven't heard anything, so we'll assume that it's good. So I make a motion to adopt policy JLF, reporting child abuse.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions.
The next policy is JICK, Pupil Safety and Violence Prevention. There was a small change to this policy with the addition of a web-based link on our website that would allow parents to notify the administration for an investigation or a concern. So I move to adopt policy JICK, Pupil Safety and Violence Prevention.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions.
And the last policy is IGE, Parental Objections to Specific Course Material. And this policy laid out the process that the staff, a teacher, and a parent would go through if a parent had objections to course material or questions about course material. And so I move to adopt policy IGE, Parental Objections to Specific Course Material.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. Okay. The last day of school for students.
So we've had 2 snow days. So tonight is the night make a decision about whether or not we have students have their last day on the originally scheduled last day, which would be the Friday, or if you want them to go into the following week. So my recommendation would be to keep the last day as it was originally scheduled, and we will use the Monday and Tuesday for staff.
Questions or comments? Yes.
Friday the 20th.
19.
Oh, I'm looking at next year's
Oh,
calendar.
I'm sorry.
Wait, who's looking at next year?
Right. Yes.
I did not see in the materials or here last time, how many hours would be the minimum required? We heard 175 days or 180 days, but the answer was, although we were scheduled for 180, we could get by with skipping 2 because we still had the hours, but I never heard what the right number of hours is. And do we still comply with that? I assume we do, but I just wanted to hear somebody tell us.
I will tell you that one year while I was principal, I figured out exactly the hours, and we could have ended up school on May 1st. So I'm pretty sure that we have enough hours that are in.
That's good enough, thanks.
I can tell you, and it's by the Ed 306s, we need at least 945 hours of instructional time in grades 1 to 6 and 990 hours of instructional time in grades 7 to 12, which we absolutely meet. We're beyond those. We'll be beyond those hours.
So the last day would be the June 20th, if that we went with the Friday? I make a motion that for students, the school year ends on June 20th.
Second.
Okay, any further questions? All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, next year's school calendar. Here we go.
So you're voting on the school calendar. The one thing I do want to point out that we have tentatively put on next year's calendar is the graduation date. So you'll notice in the copy that you received, it's, we identified June 14th, 13th, which is a Saturday. We haven't done that before, but as long as the original graduation date is no more than 5 days out from the original end of school date, we are fine. And there are some advantages to identifying it now. One being parents and extended family can make their plans whenever they want. And also when we don't make it now, I've learned the high school, because we rent things like chairs, when they have to hold more than one date, there is a cost to that. So.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Can I have a motion to accept the calendar? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Out-of-district tuition rate.
So I think the piece that, as we said we were going to vote on this tonight. Again, in the past, we've set it at 40% of our per pupil cost. There's obviously some unknowns with the open enrollment legislation that has been proposed. So my recommendation would be, if we're going to set it, make your motion so that something about if legislation were to change, that obviously we would revisit.
And the problem with waiting too long is to do this is that the budget will not be established for a while still, so that it would be moved out to like the end of May, beginning of June. So, yes.
I don't know the answer to this, but if in open enrollment went in, would it start in September of this year, the school year 25, 26? Because if not, then it's a moot point.
The right now the procedure that they're in is the House has finished up their bills and their amendments, and their bill states that it will go into effect July 1st of 2026. But the Senate still has to do their budget, and then whatever they attach, if it's different than the House bill, it will have to come up with some sort of compromise bill. So we're not real sure as of this time exactly when it might go into effect. Other comments are, so is it the board's pleasure that we wait on this to see? Yes, Janine.
In normal times, even without that legislation, people do tuition up.
So we have some students who are tuition in right now that we would need to.
Jim?
Yeah, so I think we need, while this sheet is fine and these rates are fine, I think we definitely need to have written down the conditions under which these rates apply. And we don't have that right now. This is just out-of-district tuition. It's out-of-district tuition if we have the seats available, and that's not noted anywhere, right? As I mentioned last week, you know, it's easy easier at least in an elementary school or a middle school to know if we have the seats. In a high school where kids are doing course selection, that becomes a very complex thing, and how are we going to handle that? I'd like to have an answer to that before we understand, you know, how are we going to adjudicate who can tuition in, especially in a high school environment.
Okay. Other comments or questions? Yes.
I just had a question, and this may not apply, but I just have to ask it. If a school withdrew, is this going to be, that would be the rate they would pay, as opposed to the cost per student? I'm not sure of that answer. And if a school withdraws and pays $10,530 per student, why wouldn't every school withdraw?
Because, Dr. Forrest?
Well, so I've just shared with you the sheet that I guess historically we've shared. So we're happy to put together more. This may be something that policy committee should take a look at. But historically, that tuition has exclusively been if we have an open seat and we know that we're really not adding a cost, right? So if we have a class with 10 kids and we can have up to 18 kids and we put another student, the costs associated with adding that student to that class is minimal, right? If a town or a district withdrew, we would be establishing a tuition rate, negotiating that with them, and we wouldn't have the ability to say, no, we'll take, some of your students because we have open spots. We would be guaranteeing that we would be taking them in, and if we needed to hire more teachers in order to do that, we would.
And
So this
that's
40%.
part of the procedure for withdrawal is that you have to negotiate certain parts of a contract with them after withdrawal is approved.
So
Yes.
this would not apply to, okay, thank
No.
you.
Yes,
My understanding is not very well educated, but I think I heard that the legislation said that the selection of students who would be able to come in would have to be done by lottery. And that would seem to suggest that the fact that you used to be in this district would not favor you.
Curtis?
I think the lottery aspect of the open enrollment legislation only came into effect if there were more students applying to enter a district than there were seats available.
Kat?
So I think we do have a policy, JFAB, am I mistaken? Admission of tuition and non-resident students, and it states students who are not residents of Kentucky Valley may, so long as there's space available and upon payment, blah, blah, blah. So I think there is, it's already written down, it's like 4 pages. So I think it's there.
So do we want to add a clause here that describes
Well,
what the
It talks about RSA 193:3, right? So if the legislature changes, then we have to then go back and change the policy
Right.
or update the policy. So I think we can just
well,
set the-
and that's
set the
true.
price.
Anytime the legislature passes something that affects our compliance, we have to go back and look at it and then go ahead and make changes to make sure that we are in compliance. Dr. Forrest?
Yes, absolutely. And good job, Kat. So I don't, so policy may still want to take a look at that policy, since clearly a few of us forgot that we even had it in place.
So if we brought this back the first meeting in May, that would be sufficient?
Pretty extensive, so I bet a lot of stuff that you were asking for, Jim.
Is that all right?
Yeah, so I think making clear that this is in accordance with policy KFAB. And then accepting these rates would be.
Okay.
would be the way to go forward.
All right. So can I have a thumbs up for those that think that we should turn this back to the policy committee and then go ahead and look at approving it the first board member meeting in May? All those in favor of doing that? Okay. Opposed? All right. Thank you. New business, the health trust update.
So as was mentioned at the last meeting, there's some legislation coming out of the Senate regarding the regulation of public risk pools and their contingency reserve funds. Health Trust is the health insurance risk pool for the CBEA, has identified some potential problems with the legislation, and we are continuing to monitoring its trip through the legislature. I know the SAU's been in contact with Health Trust, and the union is also aware of what's going on. So not a whole lot to report.
Yes.
So, the webinar said that, the pooled risk program, Health Trust said it would close its doors if that legislation went through. So you've been in contact with them?
If that happened, we would still be covered through June 30th, yeah.
Well, so we are looking at potential alternatives if that were to happen. Right. Well, there are we are looking at actually a few different potential things. Yeah. Well, that's what we'll find out, but it's better to be ready than all of a sudden have to make a change overnight, so. Right, research study?
We've had a request for a person who is a substitute teacher here at SMS and also a former student teacher at SMS to conduct a research for his graduate studies. He's a Franklin Pierce University student. This request does satisfy policy LC, which is relations with educational research agencies. The research will sharpen perceptions of instructional and administrative problems. So this particular researcher is looking to look at the effects of student absenteeism, wondering what role does experience play in the effectiveness of different methods for combating absenteeism. The person has contacted principal at SMS and has gotten their okay to conduct this. The information, including RFB approval, informed consent forms, and a review of the questionnaire to be sent to staff, has been taken a look at by the superintendent. And I'm looking for the board to approve this researcher to conduct their study.
Okay, questions? Yes.
The description you just gave made it sound as if the research is looking at the causes of absenteeism as opposed to the effects. Which is it?
The researcher is going to be putting out a survey to staff who voluntarily choose to participate. He will be asking some questions around their experience with student absenteeism and methods that they might have put in place for that. I don't want to say anything more because that would compromise his research. However, he will share his outcome with those that do intend to participate. All participants will be kept anonymous.
Other questions?
Second.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the research study? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Okay. All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, expense and encumbrance report.
Good evening. My apologies for not having an expense and encumbrance report in your packet this evening. Last week when I went to construct the report, I noticed that some of the salary lines were much lower than I expected them to be, the budget balance of those. And due to our budget transfer from March 18th, we decided to look closer at this. There are health insurance buyback accounts that are expensed to the salary line, but they are budgeted in the benefits line. So that's a little out of balance. So we're going to, with the help of my accountants, Stephanie, we're looking at all of the salary and benefits for all the employees to make sure things are budgeted and expensed in the right places. This is the time of year that what we want to do with fine focus on the budget balance moving forward towards the end of this fiscal year. So we're taking this time to do a really close look and a deep dive around some of these account lines. That would be so that you get an accurate object report next time we meet. But also B, we're also really close to doing a rollover for the next fiscal year. So we thought we would take this time to make sure that everything is where it should be. I'll have a report for you next time.
Okay. Any questions? Jim?
Yeah, I would just say that this would be, further ammunition in all the manifest reports that we get to look at and approve, to have cost account numbers that go along with those expenses on all those reports, please.
And those were added, right? To the. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Field trip proposals. Can I have a motion for the first field trip proposal?
I propose that we approve the Special Olympics Winter Game field trip for grades 9 through 12 to Waterville Valley for March of 2026.
Second.
Any questions? Yes.
As a new person, I'm not clear what money is involved. Is there funding for this? I don't see it on these forms.
We budget for field trips in the general budget, but it's not included in the permission, the forms. Oh, for overnight, sorry. Heather, can you speak to that or no?
Yes, I can speak to that. Yes, we have some funds reserved. We've also had a donation in the past that helped with that, and there was some years there's a fundraiser, so there's always funds that we're able to earmark for that. This is over a year out as well, but we want to make sure that since it's an overnight, we're getting that in a year in advance.
It just seems useful to me if we knew how that fund was doing. You have money set aside and we know that this is going to absorb it fully. It might help us to make our decision, or it might.
Yeah, I can bring back the specifics to the next meeting if that would be helpful. It's still well over a year in advance.
I'm not trying to delay the decision. I'm just trying to understand the policy, how we're making these decisions. And it seems that if there is some money set aside, we ought to be knowing how much we're using each time we approve one of these.
Yeah, primarily, it's brought forward to us because it's going to be an overnight, and the policy says that any overnight field trips have to be brought before the school board, so. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The, yes,
I move that we approve the Belize trip for grades 9 through 12 for the 221 to 2026 to 3126.
Yeah, I have the same question as Carl on this one, funding.
Yes, this field trip, all the funds are raised by the students. Miss Young, who is the science teacher that oversees the trip, she usually helps do some of the preparing for the different fundraisers that students can do. But this is all funded by the students.
yes.
The policy
Thank you.
says that overnight trips or trips more than 2 days have to be brought before the board, and that's what we're approving. We're not approving the amount of money. That's a separate issue. Just to clarify.
Other questions? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? All right, public comment. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to comment at this time? Okay, we do have both non-public and non-meeting.
Jim, do we need to go into a non-meeting for negotiations? Well, I'm not remembering what the change is. Non-meeting, yeah. So under, yeah. By the right to know law, negotiations is not considered a meeting. So we're going into a non-meeting to discuss negotiations.
So should we do the non-public first and then close this meeting and then go into the non-meeting?
You can, or you can phrase it as that we're going to recess the meeting for 5 minutes and then come back in.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, so I move that we go into a non-meeting session under RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2.
For negotiations.
For negotiations.
Okay. All those in favor?
We have to,
You do for non-public, but
Oh,
I think we should do it.
you have to for non-meeting also?
Aye.
Doesn't hurt.
Oh, we do?
Cat eye.
Tom, aye. I'm in that order.
Mike, yes.
Janine, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, it is.